Thank you all for being here on such a beautiful night. So two weeks ago, we had a presentation of Larry Warner presented on the Bluff Country Club. The Blue Heron. Well, any of you here? During that time, when Larry presented, he said something that really caught my attention. And he said, we're not about processed food. That really rang a huge bell for me, because I remember when I was about 8 or 9, my father came back from sea. He was a merchant marine, and he traveled the world, and he came home for 3 weeks, and he went away for 6 months. And he came home one day, and he said, in Welsh, my language we spoke, "Bwyd wedi ei prosesu." And I'd never heard that word, processed food, before, because I didn't know what it was. Because we lived out in the country, and we ate from the animal, we ate from the garden, and processed food. So what processed food is something that goes somewhere else, it gets worked on, and then finally they deliver it to you to the store, and then you buy it. But what we're talking about tonight is the food that comes from the earth, comes from an animal, and it's not processed. And that's why we're here tonight, to support the farmers market and stuff like that. So anyway, Sandy and Lonnie Dietz have been farming out in Whitewater Gardens for Whitewater Gardens Farm for 29 years. And you've seen them both before, and they're such huge supporters of the festival. And the farm is a small family farm in southeast of Minnesota, just above the Whitewater Valley. They grow a wide variety of produce by organic methods for our community. The farm is a healthy habitat for wildlife, pollinators, and insects. And Sandy is going to tell us some of the historical background of the farmers market here. And Sarah Schaub, sitting down over here, her family farm for just 6 generations in Wisconsin, right across the river, near Alma, right? Her parents are now run it as a family business, Valley Gardens LLC. Their farm is nestled in the western Wisconsin Bluffs and grow microgreens and sell eggs and honey. Please welcome them both, and we thank you so much for being here to present on the farmers market.
I guess that would help. But you'll have to bear with me here. I've had to dig through tons of papers, and I'm trying to figure out dates and names and everything from when the market started. And I wasn't part of the group that got all this information together for our 50th anniversary, but I've been going through a lot of the information with Sarah's help to give somewhat of a history. And I don't have all the details, but from what we can find out, the market actually was started by Famine Foods in 1973. The people that were involved, a couple of them that I don't know, Michael Doyle, Roger Locker, and Walken Radicek. I had to ask how to pronounce his last name. And Joyce Ford. Was that at the very beginning in 73?
She was integral to the beginning of the market.
Okay. From what I could find, it must have been on an empty lot near Famine Foods. And it was set up to not just sell good food to the public, but to barter and trade foods and that type of thing. So we have information from 73 up to 77 when they finally incorporated. I'm not sure where they were located at that time. I could not find that information. But I guess what I should do here, before I get into that too much more, Sarah, if you want to back up. This is our mission statement for the farmers market now. And it really, I don't think, has changed much from what I could find from 1973 when market started. As a way for local farmers to share their bounty with the community, the farmers market was created. The Winona Farmers Market is a much-loved neighborly tradition in the Winona area. The market maintains a commitment to local agriculture, supports small growers and producers, and provides an inviting venue for shoppers outside and inside. I was, in going through some of these papers, I found the benefits, a list of benefits of farmers markets for the community, and I don't know, Sarah, if you had, okay. And it's the exact same thing we're talking about now. Can produce a strong sense of identity and sell good food and connect with consumers, let consumers know where their food came from, how it's grown. You know, all the same things that we talk about today as the benefits for farmers markets in the area, supporting local businesses, keeping our money in the area. But once they incorporated in 1977, I could not find any information at all until 1986. I've been told that there was a gap in there where they didn't have market for a little while. I think Jim and Joyce Ford and Jim Riddle and Neil Broadwater worked on getting it back up and running again. And then they moved under the interstate bridge in 1986. We do have some photos from that, and it's kind of fun. I started in 96, and Claire was still there. Claire, or not Claire, but Nan. Trying to remember. Nan Horton.
Nancy Horton.
Yeah, I remember Nan. But it's fun to look back. They were under the bridge at that point. These photos were from the 90s. Jim over there when he was still selling. And then I believe that was Roger Longer?
Yeah, with the hats on, yeah.
Okay. So these were really fun newspaper clippings to look through. And then in 1998, the market moved to the levee where we're at right now. Yep. And it's been, have I still? Okay. It's been a wonderful place to have our market. The atmosphere has been good. It's been, for the most part, easy to get in and out of. I think our customers really like it. People have asked if we'd ever go under the bridge again, but two problems. We legally cannot anymore. It's a Homeland Security issue. And pigeons are horrible. It was kind of fun under the bridge, though. You didn't have to worry about putting up canopies. When we started in 96, I started with a card table, grew a few vegetables that I liked, and found out very quickly people would ask for a lot of things that I didn't like at the time. So I started growing them, and I had to learn to like them because they would ask, how do you prepare this? What's your favorite way to have it? And they still do that. But one of the things that I really remember is a lot of times at market you have characters that are regulars. And we had a character for quite a few years called Milo, and I think most of you knew him. I think I had been at market for about a year, and our young daughter was with me, and I think I had to make a bathroom run, and she was sitting on the back of the car watching the table, and Milo came over and sat down beside her and scared the hell out of her. She didn't have a clue who this guy was who was just in shorts, sandals, and a hat. No shirt, beard. I mean, that's how everybody saw him. But he was a wonderful character that came and visited and brought samples of things, and it was fun to see what he'd have in his hat every week. It was always something a little bit different. But then, and he still came to visit us after we moved to Levy Park. From there, there's not a whole lot of new things that happened there. We started having cooking demos, we would have events, things like that. And I think, Sarah, you had some video that was featured on Spirit of the Heartland, and I had to laugh when I saw these clips. It's not the whole thing, but there's a couple clips here that we'll play for you and see if you recognize people in there.
Joyce Woodward, welcome to the Spirit of the Heartland. Today we're at the Farmers Market in downtown Winona. Every Wednesday afternoon and Saturday morning, local farmers gather at the foot of Main Street to display and sell their produce, their flowers, baked goods, and meats. We're going to wander around here today and talk with a few of the farmers to see what they have to sell and maybe learn a few new ways to prepare some familiar vegetables. The Farmers Market is a bustling place of activity on Saturday mornings, with 40 farmers from within 50 miles of Winona coming to sell what they have grown, and people from the Heartland area coming to purchase their beautiful produce. Joyce Woodward, welcome.
So that's one of the clips. We've got a couple more short ones here. Some of them are speaking with customers, and some of them are talking with some of the vendors. And you see who you recognize on these.
Farmers Market often, Kathy? Yeah, pretty often. You know, it just has a great variety and everything is fresh and beautiful. So it's a wonderful place to be. And it's a social event also on Saturday morning, so we enjoy it a lot.
I'm here every week because I love this place. Kathy is absolutely right. It's social, but it's also local food. Supporting our local farmers, which is so important. It's fresh. Most of it is organic, and it doesn't travel thousands of miles more than I do before I meet it. So look at that. I mean, that is huge. You can't find this in the grocery store.
The displays of the produce are works of art of all the colors and the arrangements. I love it.
Plus, they have my favorite dish.
What is it?
Food.
We bring first quality products to market and for our CSA members. So that's our big concern is quality.
Great. And how does the Winona's Farmer Market work for you?
We love it. We've got a great customer base here, very loyal customers. We do both Rochester and Winona, and Winona sometimes beats out our Rochester sales. So
That's good to hear. Well, we're into this kind of good, healthy food. What would you want to stress? If you could stress something about the farmers market, what would you want to stress to the audience the most?
we think it's really important for people to know that they can buy this fresh, local food right here in town. And of course, we have the 2 days a week that we're open. We have Wednesdays from 2 to 5 p.m. and we have the Saturday morning market from 7:30 to noon. And we're open from the first Saturday in May until the last Saturday of October. So 6 months of fabulous fresh products for people to come out and find.
Those are so fun to watch. And I can't believe, I think I look like a baby. How times change. Okay, there was a couple things that happened in 2010. One of them was we finally went online. We had started our website in 2010, and we started our first winter farmers markets. And I had even forgotten that we had the first one on the WSU campus in Maxwell. After that, we moved to a couple different places. I think we were in the mall for a couple of years. That was not a good spot. And then we moved to the East End Rec, and then Friendship Center for a short time, and then landed where we are now. Starting the Winter Farmers Market changed a lot of things for a lot of the farmers. Being able to sell products all winter is kind of a blessing and a curse. You have to keep on working harder to have that product ready, but you can bring in a little bit more of a steady income. So that was a good thing. Personally, for us, it was also a blessing and a curse. We decided that since we had a good place to market our products in the winter, we put up a greenhouse to produce winter tomatoes, or year-round tomatoes. And that was supposed to supplement our summer, so we could take time in the summer. What happened was summer had to carry the greenhouse. It didn't pay off like we thought it would. I was bound and determined not to go hydroponic because I have a deep love of soil, so I really feel that produce should be grown in the soil. And we were told we were going to have problems with pests and everything else. And of course you have that kind of problem, but your biggest problem is daylight and heat and the extra hours and the extra cost that goes into it, and you don't get the yield that will pay for it. We just went along fine for quite a few years, and then at one point we had 2 years in a row that were super wet summers, and a lot of our produce we had to get in the field with a tractor to take care of. But we're on heavy clay soil. You're not going to go into that field with heavy clay soil if it's wet all the time. So we ended up in some pretty deep financial straits, and actually had come to the point where we were notified of foreclosure on the farm. But this is where community, and I get choked up even thinking about it, where community can make such a difference between friends and customers and fellow farmers. They came together and helped us out financially, emotionally, psychologically, in so many ways. Helped us deal with the bank to get them to work with us, and we're sitting in a very, very comfortable position right now. Still have a debt load, nothing near what we had before. We did have to sell some property, but the community amazed me, and I couldn't, it was like, how do people feel we deserve this? I actually had a hard time dealing with it, but I think I spent a full summer almost every day at home or at market in tears because of the generosity and the love we were shown. So, from there, we can go on a little bit. In 2019, the market became a nonprofit so that we could go for more grant monies and everything. We had, I noticed in some of the history that when the market first started out, they did have a grant from Minnesota Grown that helped them out, and they did have a grant from the Southeast Minnesota Initiative Foundation. I didn't see anything else besides, you know, what they brought in from their vendors and that type of thing. But we have found now that we have a manager, which we got our first manager, actually. And I forgot to put that on here. What was the date that we had?
2010.
2010. Oh, that was another 2010. Our first manager started in 2010. So then we had that person that we had to pay. And it made it pretty difficult with just stall fees and everything to pay for that. So now what we have to do a lot is a lot of grant writing and searching for sponsors and that type of thing, which has served us quite well over the past several years. It's getting a little bit more difficult this year because everybody's really nervous financially. They don't know where funding is going to be cut, when it's going to be cut, how much it's going to be cut. But we'll hang in there, one way or another. We will hang in there. So from there was our 50th anniversary in 2023. There was some question in some people's minds on whether it was our 50th or not.
Yes, it is.
We chose to say that 1997 or 1973 was the beginning of the Winona Farmers Market. I don't know if there was a gap in there, what happened, what
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. The market started at 73. Okay, so this was some of the things we had going on. We had a really wonderful day, with the exception of some, I don't know what you call them. Yeah, hecklers. They were trying to outcompete the music, for one thing. Trying to get our police officers to harass them. A group of people that I think makes their income by lawsuits, filing lawsuits. They were out there preaching how everything that we're doing is wrong and bad and everything else as they drive away in their Mercedes van. And just, you know. And then we happened to see that they had gone downriver not too long afterwards. We saw them in Prairie du Chien. So, but in spite of that, and a bit of a headache, because they were on one side, the music would get a little bit louder, they would get louder on a megaphone. Then the music, and it got loud. But we had a lot of fun, and we had the corn shucking, and, you know, a lot of good people speaking and supporting us. So I think that brings us to Sarah's part of the presentation.
Hi everyone, yes, my name is Sarah Schaub. As Steph mentioned, I am a 6th generation farmer from right across the river. And looking back at the history here, preparing for this today, my family and I actually went back through some of that family history and we realized we skipped a generation. There was one more that we didn't think of. I thought I was the 5th. No, I'm actually the 6th. It started with Frederick Schaub, who came over from Prussia, Germany back in 1853. Is when he had first established our farm. And then his son William took it over from him there, then to Roswell, which was my great-great-grandpa, to my grandpa Eugene, to my father Wayne, and then to me. And farming is something that's always been a part of us, been a very strong part of our family and community. My first ancestor, Frederick, actually founded the Cream Church over in Cream, Wisconsin. So he was the very first one that got that going. And my other ancestor, William, was a strong part of the community. He was on the town board for 15 years, supervisor for 3 years. So we've always had deep ties to community. I was right across the river, grew up, and went to high school up in Alma. There isn't much a stronger network of community than learning those ties, and you help each other out, and you work together, and you get through it together. We learned that we were such a farming ag community. We had our drive your tractor to school day when we had it in high school, and we would travel all over. I was a strong member of FFA back in my days, and I literally traveled all over the country in my efforts with FFA, learning from music entities with the national band, to soil judging competitions, to all different kinds of things. And there is so much that you can experience through those and grow through the experiences. So it has served me well going forward into my life. I, after high school, went to college, became a teacher. And as paths change and go through there, I ended up in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, teaching for my first few years. But I always wanted to get back home. Home is very, very important to me, and that connection to family and soil is very important to me, which I get choked up about a little bit just talking about. So with that entity, I joined up with a different company as an auditor and started slowly moving my way back across the state until now I live down in Alaska, where I audit during the week and help out my family with the farm when I can, and I'm here for farmers markets both here in Winona and on Alaska on the weekends. So my transition and participation in the Winona Farmers Market began in 2019, when at that point my dad, who had been a dairy farmer for most of his life, retired. Do farmers ever really retire? No, they never do. So we transitioned from being dairy farmers to organic produce farmers. And the transition was actually quite easy for us because we had been organic on our farm for a number of years, so the paperwork part was very simple. But we wanted to, again, get back into the community and give back to our community as well. So we decided to start growing organic produce to bring to the markets, which is what we do now. And you don't see my father, he's the stay-at-home guy, but if you ever are driving up Highway 88, please do wave to him as you go past our farm. His name is Wayne, and he has the nickname of Wave to Wayne, because he will always wave and smile at you no matter when you go by. And you will see my mother and I down here at the markets. My mother's name is Anne, and we'll be the ones down here doing the selling, because he likes to stay at home and make sure everything is going okay. So, to my part then, as I mentioned, I work off the farm during the week in business. I am an auditor and business analyst, and so what I do is look at a lot of numbers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the numbers for the farmers market today. So in going back through, as I mentioned, I joined in 2019, so again I'm looking at historical data that was a little before my time. But just in showing how much the market has grown in recent times, this is a look at one of our statements back from 2011. The income that we had for the market for that year, $7,000, expenses $4,000. Go ahead, one more. So this is a little bit more detail up there. We had a coordinator, as Sandy mentioned, back in that time. The coordinator's expenses for that year, $2,600. That wasn't that long ago, guys. So a part-time position and a very important position to the markets, and definitely one that we needed to finance and fund. But this is what it was just in 2011. Okay? Fast forwarding, go ahead and do 2. This is 2020. Now a lot changed in the world in 2020, as you well know. And one of the things that definitely changed in 2020, in addition to the pandemic, was a focus back on community and supporting local and making sure that everybody took care of each other. So in 2020, less than 10 years from that last statement I gave you, our income was $30,000. Expenses, just shy of that 29,000. So we balanced our budget. and it was one of those years where we had a lot of community involvement, a lot of money coming through the market, a lot of economy coming through that market. A lot of what happens is we had many different programs that we would support. Technical difficulties, please stand by. Here we go. So in looking at some of the things that we had, a big part of what we do now is our SNAP program. Minnesota has an awesome thing where they have market bucks and produce bucks at the moment, which helps support food assistance. So right now, when people come down to the market and swipe their EBT cards, they get $10 from their card, $10 in market bucks, and $10 in produce bucks to help extend that funding. This really took off in 2020, especially because so many people needed that assistance during that time. So we saw a lot more income coming through that market with that help from those programs, which was great to get that food out to our communities, to people who needed it during those hard times. It was also great because it was additional income, obviously, for those producing it as well. So there was a big movement back to getting that money back into the local communities. And since that time, it has kind of stayed here. We have had so many things community involved in the market throughout the years that bring that focus back to supporting each other. Going back through the records, in 2004, we had Winona Area Chamber of Commerce actually awarded us the service award for that year for what we were doing for the local community. Back in 2009, there were a lot of different things we had going on, including come to the market for vegetable gardening workshop, help educating the community, not only about, we bring the produce to the market, how do you grow it and bring it yourself? If you've ever stopped by our tent, that's one thing that my mother and I are very passionate about, because one of the things we sell is microgreens. And we sell them different from other people because we sell them in a live growing state. We want people to be a part of that growing process. It's not only good for mental health, physical health, it gets you involved in that growing process. It helps you support yourself and know where your food comes from, even the smallest ways of microgreens. So help things the market has done throughout the years. This was back before master gardeners come into our market to help educate people about growing things in their backyard. We had cooking demonstrations at markets about how do you use this produce? What do you go home and take it home with and be able to put it on the table with? We also had the farmers market went to college and was down at the UW parking lot for a while there. So a few different events in the community. We also had events tied to our farmers, farm to table. Sandy did not mention this, but one of the ones that she had was farm to table, come out to her farm and be able to experience where their produce comes from, have a meal right on the farm. Events like that to really connect people to where their food comes from. So that's one thing that's great about the market, it's very transparent. We're very open to say that, yes, this was harvested this morning. It came right from here to the market to you. Kind of got that middleman completely. More programs that we have that we do today, we have our POP program, which we've had for a while in one version. We've been having our kids POP program for many years, where a child can come down to the market and get a $2 coupon, which they can spend any way they want, that's their money, on fresh fruits and veggies. So it's so exciting to see the kids come down to the market with their money in hand, looking through those tables. What am I going to get today? What am I going to try new? Hearing the parents say, let's try something we haven't tried before, guys. Looking for that thing that they haven't tried before to explore. Love that program so much. This program, as Sandy mentioned when we started more of these activities, is fully funded by the farmers market through donations that we get. Occasionally, with a little grant support too, but grants that are not very forthcoming so far, so this year anyway, but we have had both grant and local donations as well. We also have a new program this year. We're expanding that program to our Seniors POP program. On the last Saturday of each month, anyone, seniors can come down to the market to get a $5 coupon. No charge, no expense, whatever, just $5 coupon to you to expend on fresh fruits and veggies, whatever your choice is. And with that, we also have the Friendship Center coming down with us every last Saturday of the month to do activities, explain about events that they have. We have a seating area where you can come down and just socialize. So again, bringing the community together, from the young ones, who are just getting their foot in the door and building those healthy eating habits right from the beginning, up until community gathering, no matter what our age is, together, and getting together and socializing together as a community. So with that, I would also like to say that we've had some great experiences, and these are only a couple of pictures that we have. I should have put in here, I have one picture of a young guy with his microgreen tray, and his face is just right in the tray, just eating the tray. Just love it. We have so many great pictures of the kids out there these days, enjoying their program and shopping with their money that they get to spend however they want. So with that, we have many in the community that do support us, and we do want to call those out as well. Part of my duties when I was secretary on the board for a number of years was to help with renovating the website, which we did about 3 or 4 years ago, and through some technical difficulties, finally got it working for everybody. And so on our website, we always have a page where it explains who we have that has helped contribute to our programs that we offer at the market. So this year you can see that the sponsors and donors that we've had so far this year at the market who help fund those programs like POP for kids and seniors. So many wonderful things in the community. I mean, that's what the Farmers Market is all about. It's all about bringing the community together, all about connecting people with their local food, all about keeping things local, keeping people feeling secure, because you know that you have a connection to food. You don't have to worry. In times like today, there's so much uncertainty in the world. We don't know what's going to come next from day to day, from hour to hour, from minute to minute. The younger people that you talk to when it comes to social media, you're so hardwired that everything is instantaneous. One thing to the next, to the next, to the next. It's hard to decompress, it's hard to unwind. And so with that, having that sense of security that the Farmers Market brings, you know you're going to have a source that you can come to that's going to have food, where you can be sustained and come together with your community and your neighbors to be together and support each other no matter what happens in the world. That's what the Farmers Market is all about. So, thank you very much.
Questions?
I want to compliment the Farmers Market has welcomed the League of Women Voters to get the voters out from our nonpartisan standpoint every single election since about 2010. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming, because one of the things that we did not mention but we should have is that one of our parts of our mission statement is education in the community about not only food but information. So thank you very much. We appreciate having you.
Can you talk a little bit more about COVID and how you got through that at the Farmers Market?
Absolutely. So the COVID times were very interesting times. Another time of uncertainty when we didn't know what was going to happen when. The good and the bad of COVID, the good was community coming together and people really seeking out those local sources. We saw a great surge, probably some of the best crowds we've had in years coming through the Farmers Market, coming to find and buy their produce. Also good things, during that time there was a lot more grant funding that came about during those times, which allowed us, through some wonderful help and support from the community and people who are great grant writers, more better than I am, were able to help us secure some of those grants. So we do have a little bit more to ride on during those tough times, which was absolutely amazing. Tough times, as Sandy had mentioned with our anniversary, same thing happened during the pandemic. You definitely had people who were not the happiest coming through when we had to enforce mask mandates or other regulations that the state said we had to put in place if we wanted to stay open. Because there's always the question of will we be able to stay open or not, even though we're an open air event. So there were certain regulations we had to go through. We had to make sure people did wear masks. We had a great market coordinator during those years, Monica, that was wonderful at very calmly and in an approachable manner, approaching those who were trying to protest and not wear their masks, and make sure that we were able to talk to them civilly with only a few minor incidents that needed police help during those times. So we did get through it together. We saw a lot of, we got a lot of information from people too in the community during that time on how thankful they were that they knew where their food came from. And again, that sense of security, because there was so much uncertainty during those times. People were in lockdown. The community wasn't able to get together very much, but we were able to for market. So it was a place that helped provide that social security as well during those times where you had a place you could socially gather together and come together when you didn't know what was going to happen next or how long we'd have to be quarantined or things like that at home. So it was the best of times and the worst of times, as the historians would say, but definitely one that we'll always remember.
Well, even going off of that, the grocery stores, you know, there would have been empty shelves, things like that, and they knew they could come down to market to get food. But that's another thing, COVID notwithstanding, when there are food recalls out there, contaminated foods from the, you know, when a big farm has a contamination, it's food all over the country. And it can be very difficult to feel comfortable with fresh produce that you're getting off the shelves in a grocery store because of those types of things. But when you can come to a market and talk to the person that grew that food, and I hate to say it, but you know, something could happen with somebody's produce locally, but it doesn't affect such a large amount of people. And you can usually figure it out a lot quicker and figure out what to do about it. So I think generally you're talking safer food at market, as well as finding a lot more variety and flavor that you're not going to find in a grocery store. We were talking to a group of nutritionists one time, and they were trying to figure out how to get kids to eat vegetables. And I said, go to the farmer's market. That food has flavor. The food you get off the grocery store shelves has no flavor. I wouldn't want to eat vegetables either if I had a carrot that tastes like cardboard. So, you know, and they were kind of surprised. They never thought about that, about the flavors being different.
Yeah, food definitely tastes different when it comes straight off the farm. There's nothing like that sun-dried berry. And just getting back to that too, in talking financials and statements, one thing I didn't mention before is during the past few years, we've had help from Friends of the Market who have come to our market to take surveys, which helps give us more stats of how many people are coming through, where they're coming from, how they're getting to us. In looking at those numbers, we really have become a destination market where we see people from the cities, we see people come through from Chicago, we see people come through onto the boats that are coming down the river, and just come through for a fun day at the market, but they've heard about our market, they want to come check it out. So when we started looking at the numbers and projections of how much income is actually coming through the market, honestly, on an average of all people coming through spending about $30 a day, estimating that maybe 50% of the people coming through are actually buying things, you're looking at an annual income coming through the market of somewhere between $250,000 to $500,000 in a season. So the numbers are huge when you start looking at it that way. There's a lot of market that comes to, or a lot of revenue that comes through the market, and not only at our market, those are just our numbers that we're looking at. But when they're downtown, they're stopping at the local businesses. They're stopping at the co-op. They're stopping at the Blue Heron. They're stopping at the coffee shop. They're stopping for those other events downtown, also spending money. So you're seeing that ripple effect come through of it's not just the market, it's what the market brings to the whole community. I saw a hand in the back. Yes.
Oh, hi, I'm Joyanne Devlin. I really enjoyed the history, and I moved in Winona in '89. I always wondered if farmers market actually recruits the farmers, or whoever growing something can come and sell, or how do you manage somebody selling something which is not actually healthy, or, I mean, is there any kind of quarantine, any kind of security, safety thing? I was just always curious about that.
Absolutely, great question, great question. So one of the things that we have, especially as we were 501c3, is we came up with rules and guidelines to the market that help ensure that safety and fairness for the vendors as well. So we have both things in place. We are very strict about food safety. We have a lot of state statutes and things that we have to make sure are handled accordingly. If we have ready-to-eat vendors, they have to have the proper licensing. Any of us, like Sandy and I, that are organic, we have to have certification if we're saying that our product is organic. So we have standards that we hold everybody accountable to for whatever they're bringing to the market to make sure it is correct. As we are a border town, you also have the added fun of what's acceptable in one state might not be acceptable to sell in another state. And if you're bringing it across, what can you bring or can't you bring? So there are some things as a Wisconsin vendor I can't bring to market because I'm from Wisconsin. So we keep all of that knowledge and cycle through, and I've learned a ton from Sandy throughout the years on what those market requirements were as we both served on the board together that helped us make sure that we are following all the rules and guidelines, because in essence we are, as Sandy mentioned, a grocery store in a way to the community, so we have to abide by those same food regulations as anybody would. When it comes to vendors, and kind of how we regulate how many we have and who we have a board of directors. So whenever anybody applies to be a vendor of the market, there's a review process that they have to go through. And at any given time, and this can change, we'll look through who we have as vendors at the market. And if we have too many of one thing, we'll maybe say, well, we're going to deny your request for now because of the surplus in the market kind of a thing. There are times, occasionally, when we do a little recruiting. For example, if we're looking for someone that sells maple syrup and we haven't had a maple syrup vendor for a while, we may go and say, does anybody scout out and see who do we have that we know sells maple syrup that maybe could come to market. So there's a little bit of that going on too. More than that though, it's usually applications coming in that we have to go through, and they balance out pretty well. Like this year we got 2 new cheese vendors, and they came in by themselves, basically, including one that happened to be a presenter at our 50th anniversary who saw what our great market was and decided to come and be a vendor at our market after that. So, yeah, Sandy?
What can't you bring over from Wisconsin?
There are different things as far as regulations for canned goods or baked goods, depending on the state requirements of what you can or can't produce. So for example, if I held, as a Wisconsin vendor, I held a Minnesota cottage food license, I could bring cottage food baked goods across the border. I could not bring canned goods across the border because it can cross state lines. It's a more government regulation thing where it's a higher level. If things are produced in a certified kitchen, they might be more accepted than if they're produced in a home kitchen. So there's regulations even within the state of Minnesota that say that too, as far as what you can or can't bring based off of where and how it's produced. So there's a whole, we could have a whole talk on just the regulations if we needed to.
And we try to hold to those regulations in our market as much as we can. There's some farmers markets out there that just let a lot of things slide. But we look at it as if something happens with one vendor, if there's a complaint, if there's a lawsuit, everybody's involved. And that can go across markets across the state if there's an issue. So we try to hold to that as much as possible. Not all of the vendors are of a size or necessarily have a mind to go through the national food safety training that they are supposed to go through, but most of them do, especially if they grow a large amount of produce or if they're doing produce for a living. They have gone through the food safety training, and most of it is common sense type stuff. It's nothing that's terribly difficult. Meats are another story. They have to have their own licensing, their own special equipment, things like that. And we try to watch very closely to make sure that everybody is going by the rules for everybody's sake.
You have 2 locations. Tonight, I believe there is a farmer's market in the city of Goodview, 3 miles away. Are you any relationship there, or do vendors cross
Goodview is its own market. They have their own board and their own protocol and everything. Vendors can do both. We have no requirements that they can't do another market. Personally, we used to do 2 markets at the same time. My husband and a helper would go to Rochester, and we did Winona. So I think there might be a couple vendors that do both, but most of them are separate.
Thank you.
And there are a bunch of us as well that are vendors in the market that sell not only here in Minnesota, but at Winona, but we also sell maybe at La Crosse, which used to be Cameron Park, now it's Burns Park, on Friday nights. And others of us that sell at the Unalaska Farm Fresh Market, which is over by the Ashley Food Store as well. So when you're a part of like the farmers market community, you get to know your neighbors pretty well, and so you're going to see some familiar faces if you hop between markets. That you might see some recognizable vendors between them. So there's several of us that go back and forth.
Being a farmer girl myself, when I was growing up, I know how much work it is. Just getting personal, how much, what do each of you add, what do you grow for vegetables or whatever, fruits, to give to the farmer's market? What do each of you, I'd like to just know your personal stories a little bit.
For our personal story, the growing and selling produce and native plants now for the last quite a few years is our full-time job.
But what are they?
What are the vegetables?
A little bit about what you, what do you sell?
Okay. Our main crops that we're known for the most, I think, are our fall carrots and our sweet potatoes. We our lettuce in the spring. We do a few exotic things like ginger and turmeric. There's not too many vendors that do that. But we also do, a lot of the regulars like onions and potatoes and squash and tomatoes, tons of tomatoes. We do a lot of heirloom tomatoes. So a pretty wide variety, although there's a few things that, for us personally, we will do winter radishes, the daikons, the different colored daikons. We don't do the bunches of the smaller carrots, just because there's a lot out there and we didn't feel that it was cost effective for us. We've done some cost analysis on some of our crops, and it's kind of amazing. Something that you feel you're making a lot of money on, you realize how much time you're putting into it. Other things you feel like you're putting so much time into, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, we're making a good profit off of that. So, some of those things we don't do, and over the years we've started picking and choosing a little bit more. But we still want to have a variety, a lot, so that we can do a lot of rotation on our fields and just have fun with it.
Same for us, yeah. It changes from season to season, and we do rotate our crops too, so we don't grow the same things every year. But one of the things that we're kind of known for in the market is we have organic microgreens that we do grow year-round. And it was kind of one of those happy accident coincidences where my mother took a master class learning how to grow them just before the pandemic hit in 2019 when we were first beginning, because we wanted something to sell at that indoor market to keep that income coming in throughout the winter. And then when the pandemic hit, everybody was really looking for nutrient-dense foods, and the demand for our product increased as much as well. So we're definitely microgreen producers in the market, but we sell more than that. We have lettuces and vegetables. We have a few apple crops in fall, not a ton, but a few. I would describe our farm as kind of an old McDonald farm. We have a little bit of everything, depending on what the season is.
So you have to can and cook a lot too?
And especially if it's a rainy market, yeah, maybe so after that, if we have a lot left over, yes.
It's kind of funny, the stages that you go through, and I've seen some young people go in with, these romantic ideas of doing a lot of everything. And we did that for a while too. We had chickens, we had laying hens, we did turkeys, we had a small herd of cattle, we did some pork, along with our vegetables, and it's like, we can't maintain this. So we started eliminating and just tried to figure out what was what worked best for us.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Where is the Morrison Annex Event Center?
Oh, good question. That is right next to the Polish Museum. Do you know where the Polish Museum is? I believe that's across from Volunteer Services.
Yeah.
The annex.
Second
The
Street.
annex, yes.
Yes.
Second Street.
Yep, on Second Street. Yeah.
That was our home for the first time last year.
And that has where I think we're still going to be there this winter. Hopefully we'll be able to continue there because I think our customers have liked it and I know our vendors have liked it. Yeah, it's had good atmosphere, it's had good parking.
Our winter market locations have kind of been the gypsy market. And I want to thank all of the regulars too who keep finding us where we are because sometimes that is a challenge. There was one season a couple of years ago where we literally bounced between the Friendship Center, East End Rec, back to Friendship Center, back to East End Rec again and again. And then last year landed on Morrison Annex, and I know we have put down deposit on that this year, so hopefully everything continues well because it's a beautiful facility, another great part of the local community, and wonderful parking. You know, it's one of the things our customers in our surveys always mention to us too. Can we get both on-street and off-street parking? So great access there too. So we hope we can go back there again.
So do you get any support from the city? I mean, like when you have the market down, you know, at the levee, do you have to pay a fee to be down there, or?
Yes, yeah, we do have a contract with the city to rent that space, and we do have to pay so much per market. I know when we were at, even when we go to Morrison Annex too, we pay a rental fee for each market that we are there, and I mean, there's a little bit more about probably the history with the city than I do.
We did have a period of time when we were down on the levee and we weren't paying for it. We didn't have to pay the city anything. We did pay for our porta pot and that type of thing. But we had an incident at one point where somebody did not want to apply to come into the market to sell, figured it was a city street, so they had every right to be there and sell. And they came in and tried to sell product. They would have their kids pull people away from tables, you know, bring their product up to people at the tables. And there wasn't anything we could do about it. We did call law enforcement. They could talk to them, but they could not remove them from the premises. So since then, we've had a contract with the city so that when we are there, it's our spot, and they can, if they have to, remove someone. Any other questions?
Well, thank you so much. For all the hard work and all the harvesting. And I know Jim Riddle used to sometimes be out there at midnight trying to get stuff for the next morning. And I think about the frost, and I think about the rain, that rainy summer you had. Every weekend it would rain, rain, rain. But thank you for all the good work that you do for our community. Thank you very much. I would just like, before you leave, I just want to let you know the Sandbar Storytelling Festival will happen this October 7th to the 11th. And that starts on a Tuesday with Bill Lepp down at the Blue Heron telling stories with pizza. And he goes to the brewery at Wednesday night. That's Josh Goforth, a banjo player from Kentucky. Nobody can play it like he can. He is just amazing. So I hope you'll consider coming to the festival. Our next event is Bay State Milling. We'll be presenting right here at 7 o'clock at night on August the 7th, July the 17th. That's Bay State Milling, and they will be celebrating their 101st year in Winona this year. And that is a really interesting story about an immigrant that came into the country and started that whole business. But we thank you all for coming tonight. We thank the History Center for letting this happen. And we hope to see you at the Farmers Market on Saturday morning. We'll see you then.